Whilst the academicians were pushing Odumeko Ojukwu to consider taking Eastern Nigeria out of the Federation, the tribal factor continued to operate within the Nigerian army. The ethnic tension became essentially one between the North and the East, particularly between the Hausa Fulani and the Igbo, as they had to use the brawn rather than the brain, the gun being the Packer pen. They moved towards each other on 29 July with the Hausa Fulani gaining the upper hand and therefore to an extent avenging 15 January 1966. So this was when everywhere scattered. All right, counter coup, northern counter coup. Again, the North doesn't complain when we say northern counter coup, July 29, 1966. Igbo coup of January 15, 1966. That is what history has taught us. It was an Igbo coup. It was a northern counter coup. May God give you understanding. Amen. So yeah, northern troops took over 1st of August. Yakubu Gowon becomes head of state. September, he organizes the ADO conference. At the ADO conference, the northern delegation wanted to break Nigeria because originally when they planned that coup, they actually wanted to get out of Nigeria. That's why they called it Araba. The concept of Araba really was to secede. They wanted to have their own northern region, but they were persuaded not to break away by the Attorney General of Nigeria, of the Federation, the High Commissioner, the British High Commissioner, the American Ambassador, and also the senior civil servants of northern origin. They were able to persuade Murtala Mohammed, Tiwadan Juma, all of them, like, don't break away and everything. So they put the more malleable, amenable person, Yakubu Gowon, in power. And Yakubu Gowon did something. By the way, I should say this. Papa went to prison in 1962. He wrote a book that was published much later called My March Through Prison. In that book, his letter to Ironsi is in that book where he asks for a pardon. Ironsi was there for 6 months. He did nothing. Gowon got there 1st August 1966. By 12th August 1966, Papa was out of prison. 11 days. And in case you are one of those people who carry the propaganda, Ojukwu had nothing to do with it. The only person who knew how Ojukwu has something to do with it was Ojukwu, because all the things that Ojukwu did to release Awolowo happened in his own imagination. It didn't happen in reality. 11 days. I know you're going to say that now. They said Ojukwu released. Even Ojukwu himself said he did it. He said it in a Boston interview in 2002. Just nonsense. And I thank God that not only do we have the Gazette from August 1966, we also have the video of Papa being received by Gowon. And we also have books, not by the government now, by different authors, whether foreign or local, that tell us exactly what happened. If you read John de St. John, Nigerian Civil War, or you read Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by A.H.M. Green, or you read A Break in the Silence by F. Adeton Wogunsheye, everybody knows exactly who it is, Papa, apart from people in Igbo land. May God bless them and help them. So Gowon released him, and then in September, he constituted something called the Ad hoc Conference. And the North wanted to secede. We talked about all of this before. And we're going to now continue from here now. So they talked about, let me just read to you what the Northern delegates asked for. By the way, this was the same conference that Ojukwu's people first bombed Lagos. They don't tell us these things, but it's the truth. September 1966, Ojukwu bombed Lagos and bombed Ore. That's what Ojukwu did. Where did they bomb in Lagos? The place is called Federal Palace Hotel. It's still there. But they say at that conference, and this is what the Northern delegation declared at the conference. They said the new Nigeria shall comprise a number of autonomous states. Number 2, the autonomous states of Nigeria, that is to say Northern Nigeria, Eastern Nigeria, Western Nigeria, I'm talking very fast. The autonomous states, number 2, the autonomous states of Nigeria, that is to say the Northern Nigeria, Eastern Nigeria, Western Nigeria, Midwestern Nigeria, or by whatever name they may choose to be called later, and such other states as may be formed subsequently, should agree to enter a union. This was before Aburi. Aburi was in January 4 and 5, 67. This was September 66. They come to and tell you, Ojukwu gave us Aburi. Ojukwu did nothing. You guys are just unlucky with the kind of people who have led your people, man. Even when Ojukwu got what he asked for, he still said no. Me, Boreri. We'll talk about decree number 8. Please check the video on YouTube. How Ojukwu rejected Aburi. It's on YouTube channel, Busrio Race. Ojukwu rejected Aburi. Well, even before he came up with that idea, the North also wanted autonomous states. And they said the powers of the central executive shall be delegated by the component states, except that powers connected with external or foreign affairs, immigration, can be unilaterally withdrawn by the state government. Number 3, any member state of the union should reserve the right to secede completely and unilaterally from the union. This was in 1966. The northern delegates also wanted to be able to secede. So they said tribalism was incandescently crystallized during the Civil War when the intellectuals and top civil servants used effective facilities. When they say effective facilities, they're talking about communication, effective communication, to get the world to know that the rest of us in Nigeria are tribalists. People still believe that today, especially folks from the southeast. May God heal you. May God heal your land, because you need it. They were the intellectuals and top civil servants used efficient facilities to inform the outside world that the rest of Nigerians were tribalists, and when the Biafrans were fed on the worst possible hatred of Nigerians. The history of Nigeria was completely rewritten, and in that new chronicle, the Igbo were innocent and the rest of Nigerians criminals. Tribalism crystallized into racism, in which the Igbo was persuaded to see himself as an embodiment of the virtues that had eluded other Nigerians. The crisis, it was argued, was deep-rooted in the past and had been inspired by the unabated and ever-increasing hostility of the rest of the Nigerian community for the Igbo ever since the British government imposed the British Raj on Nigeria. The Igbo man, the incarnation of all virtues, had been the object of envy by the rest of the Nigerian community, who were much less gifted in spiritual and human talents. Hey, yeah. The Igbo man was the industrious, enterprising businessman whose commercial ability was used to build up the economy of the country outside the fatherland. He was the most genuine Christian and the arch rejecter of Islam, which he knew before the colonial era could not humanize and civilize the Nigerian to the best level. He was the most zealous patron of Western-style education and consequently the inheritor of the virtues which this character molding and refiner of manners could confer on anybody. This skill he had put at the disposal of the rest of Nigeria in the civil service, in the press, and in the nationalist movement. And aware of the consolation of independence as the open sesame to the emergence of the Nigerian as a man, he had used his pen as well as his voice to lead the nationalist struggle, believing that a better breed of man would emerge in the Nigerian wise community. He had been the vanguard of pan-Nigerianism and the decrier of tribalism and sectionalism. However, the Igbo man was hated by the rest of Nigeria, who were either incapable of appreciating these virtues or were made to hate him by the British imperialists, who so hated the progress of Africans that they did not want Nigerians to be infected with such attributes that the Igbo had acquired and were displaying. The result was that hostility toward the Igbo gathered momentum and culminated in the massacres of 1966, which pushed them as a rejected people out of the Federation. That arrant nonsense is a quote from Chinua Achebe. It was an address that Chinua Achebe made to the Netherlands press, 28th August 1968. the best of everything. We are hated. They hate us. That's what massacres happen. No mention of everything that we have been talking about since. The plan to dominate, the actions that actually, was being carried out or were being carried out to dominate different regions. The East first, the Northern Civil Service, the Midwest, and then the West. East was already in the pocket. No mention of any of those things. No mention of the Unification Decree. No. We did not do anything wrong. We are the best of all mankind. Look at these brutes. These savages just came and fought us. And we're trying to even help them by making these things available to them in the civil service, in the press, in the universities. We're trying to help them. Look at these people. They're very naive. Guys, I played a video. It was last week of a man in the UK who said the exact same words. He said the Igbos were too advanced for Nigeria. I don't know if you remember that video. If I find it, I'll play it when I put this video out. He said they were too advanced for Nigeria. The Nigerians then were ingrates and brutes, incapable of behaving like the Igbo race as civilized human beings. They were unabashed perpetrators of inhumanity of man to man, people from whom the paragon Biafrans should flee in order to found a new state in which the qualities of the right-thinking man will be exemplified. In the opinion of the articulate Biafrans, all of them academicians and many of them alumni of University of Ibadan, no worse people than Nigerians could be found in the world. The Nigerians were murderers, committed to a program of total elimination of the Igbo race. In order to achieve this end, the Nigerian troops invaded Biafra. These bloodthirsty vandals were hankering after Biafran ladies, whom they were to infect with a specially devastating disease called Bonny Special. The Nigerian troops were efficient murderers of every Igbo man or woman, young or old, able or ill, whom they captured. The Nigerian leadership was made up of a pack of criminals, never-do-wells and unreliable shifty characters who have established a record of incompetence, ineffectiveness, inhumanity, unobjectivity, illegality, unpopularity and abuse of office. General Gowon was a Christian humbug. Say that again. General Gowon was a Christian humbug and leader of a jihad that aimed at Islamization of all Biafran children, killing all Biafrans above the age of 5, and one of the murderers of his benefactor, Gowon. He was a Christian leading a jihad. Was a Christian leading a jihad. Let me tell you one for instance. I did not tell you last time. You read this book, Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion, by Neil Graham Douglas. Neil Graham Douglas wrote this book in 1968. He was the Attorney General of the Eastern Region. He worked with Odumegwu Ojukwu before he resigned. During a conversation with Ojukwu told him that Gowon would not fight because he's a Christian. When he then chose to fight, suddenly he's now leading the jihad, but he's still a Christian. And some people actually believe this nonsense. You don't see the contradictions for some weird reason. You don't see that these two things don't make sense. Is a Christian leading a jihad? How? You know why? Because when this whole thing started, Ojukwu said he's not going to fight because he's a Christian. As soon as we began to fight, you have to find something else to say, oh, he's listening to that. That's why I've told people, I've said it several times. Listen, I'm not saying people don't have Islamization agenda. But if you're a Christian, especially Yoruba, and you have allowed these people to use Islamization to corner you have to think straight. They used Islamization agenda in 1966. The coup was because of Islamization agenda. Do you know that? Read the book by Ben Bule, Nigeria's 5 Majors. It was Islamization. Oh, they're going to Islamize Nigeria. Bello had already brought in ammunition from outside. They're going to bring in people from the Sahel. There is Ademule working with him. They're going to turn everybody to Muslims. 66. 67. They are still using that thing. 68. In other words, 68. The reason for the war was because they want to Islamize Igbo land. 2025. Oh, Ashewaju Boyame Tinubu is Muslim ticket. They're going to Islamize Nigeria. You think you actually went to school and you believe that thing? The 2011, it was Buhari was going to Islamize Nigeria. I'm not saying nobody has plans for Nigeria. I'm not saying they don't want to Islamize Nigeria. That's not my point. My point is just that it seems like this is more like a talking point that you use against a particular region in Nigeria. Oh, they're going to Islamize Nigeria. As for waiting, Ottoman Empire. To make matters worse, it's a Christian who is going to lead the jihad. It's a Christian leading the jihad. And then they said it was General Gowon was a Christian humbug and leader of a jihad that aimed at Islamization of all Biafran children, killing all Biafrans above the age of 5. Excuse me. He's going to kill all Biafrans above the age of 5, and one of the murderers of his benefactor, Agui Rossi, he didn't even know about that coup. Well, he knew about the coup, but was not even one of the planners of the coup. Gowon knew about the coup, but he was not one of the planners of the coup. He was not one of the executors of the coup. He was just chilling. He didn't plan it. He didn't execute it. Now they say he's the killer of his benefactor. How is Ironsi Gowon's benefactor? Ironsi that on 15th January 1966, around 5 a.m., Ironsi was still shaking in his boots, telling the officers not to chase the coup plotters until 7 a.m., even though they already had a 2-hour head start. The person who said you got to go right now is Gowon. Told the officers, told them, I'm giving guys 15 minutes. Get ready, dress up, we're leaving. That was Gowon. Because it was Gowon has a question. By the way, you find this book in a book called Gowon, The Biography of a Soldier Statesman by J. Isawa Eligo. Gowon said, when did this thing happen? They said 3 a.m. It's 5 a.m. So why is Oga saying they should give them another 2 hours? So they can get to where they were going. And believe it or not, it was in that period that Ifajuna and Okafor escaped, and they found Ifajuna, and they were wondering why was he in Enugu. He wasn't trying to kill anybody. He was looking for refuge. So why did they allow that man to go and not make any? That's why I tell people, University did not send anybody after anybody. Also, was just chilling. So calling Gowon the murderer of his benefactor is nonsense. Now we get to the crazy part. His chief lieutenant, or lieutenant, depending on the country you live in, the chief lieutenant was Chief Obafemi Awolowo, an arch-tribalist, a narrow-minded and parochial, a notoriously spineless opportunist with an all-consuming ambition and a particular obsession to realize a self-inspired delusion to become Prime Minister of Nigeria, and expertise in the embezzlement of public funds, which could be traced right through his career. Last time I said I was not going to speak about it. Let's not speak about it because of time. Everything they wrote here is describing themselves, their fathers, and their leaders. And I say it again, everything they wrote here is actually describing their fathers, their leaders, all their leaders. Nobody speaks about I will like this. I will not collect. And that's the only thing you collect for today. And this is spirit that people still carry about. This is actually writing rubbish. Oh. That's why some people's memory, I won't mention their names, some people's memories are cursed. Because you cannot have this venom. By the way, when you read two of his terrible books, I mean, the fictions are good. But all those prose, nonsense. When he wrote about this book, The Trouble with Nigeria, and the nonsense that guys, I'm not sorry for what I'm about to say right now. It's a nonsense. The last nonsense he wrote, there was a country. There's no way a young Igbo person will read that book and will think good of Nigeria or of Yoruba people or of Hausa people. You'll be hating everybody. I don't say this because of him. I say because of the readers. I read that book. I had to ask myself, like, is this? When this man wrote this book, did he see the contradiction in the book himself? Did he see this contradiction? It was in that book that I first saw that a person is fighting a war, but they can have access to play things. It was the fault of Nigeria. He blamed everybody, propaganda till death. How would young people read that book and want to have a better Nigeria? Please tell me. If you have not read the book, I don't even think you should read it, but you can read it so you can understand how people think. A young person fresh from university or just fresh from high school reads that book, hates Nigeria forever, hates Yoruba forever. But you know what he has done in that book? He will put it in your mouth that Yoruba people hate me, Yoruba people hate me, Nigerians hate me, that's what they will be saying. But in reality, you are the one who hates everybody. And it's not your fault. It's because of the materials you've been exposed to. I've read his books. Terrible stuff. Terrible. Well, Things Fall Apart is good. Story books are good apart from Man of the People, because that one is not story. He was telling us about a coup before it happened. He published that book in January of 66. The coup happened on 15th that same month of 66. Then he said the book was prophetic. Foul. But I don't want to spend time on that. Chief Anthony Nauro was a violent, conceited, and undisciplined character who from youth has been in the center of crimes against law and order. It should be repeated that no ethnic group in Nigeria can justifiably throw stone at the Igbo. The other ethnic groups did not exploit the tribal factor as a defense mechanism or preach the gospel of hatred of other ethnic groups or reduce Nigerian history to the denominator of tribalism or descend to the extreme form of racism as the Igbo intellectuals did in the cause of the Civil War. But that does not mean that other ethnic groups have less tribal instincts than the Igbo. I think it would even be wrong to deny tribal instinct. I don't even like the word tribal, because when the Scottish do these things, we call it nationalism. Scottish nationalism. Why is it tribalism in Nigeria? It's nationalism. You should stand for your nation. Stand for Igbo nation. Be proud of Igbo nation. Be proud of Yoruba nation. Stand up for it. Just like a Scotsman would do. It doesn't mean that it's no longer in the UK. It's still in the UK. It's still British, but it's Scots. It's Scottish. It's Irish, but it's British. It's Welsh, but it's British. It's English, but it's British. It's Yoruba, but it's Nigerian. It's Hausa, but it's Nigerian. And the fact that you are talking about your ethnic group does not mean that you are now a tribalist. Until you use that your tribal racism, like this man puts it, to push down other people or pull down other people because you are under. You can't push anybody down. You are under. You are the one pulling people down. And you always be under if you are pulling people down. Excuse me. So they said other groups do not have less tribal instincts, and I don't think anybody has ever denied it. I can't deny being Yoruba because I want to be Nigerian. I can be both. So why am I going to pick one? My brother in Benin Republic is a Beninois, but he's also Yoruba. The one in Togo is Yoruba, but he's also Togolese. Like, but we are Yoruba. But once you start using that thing against other groups in Nigeria, you don't even have the right to call people tribalists. You are a demonic human being. You are demon possessed. Guys, these guys, wait we don't read so far. You don't see some people get demon for body, like demon possessed people. And you be pointing fingers. You're tribalist, you're tribalist, you're tribalist, you're tribalist. Anyway, let's read a bit more. But it's true that other groups also had it. But no other group exploited the tribal factor as a defense mechanism or preached the gospel of hatred of other ethnic groups or reduced Nigeria history to the denominator of tribalism or descends to the extreme form of racism as the Igbo intellectuals did in the course of the Civil War. So yes, everybody had tribal instincts, but nobody did what they did. What you see in all of this is, so what's the name of the book? The book is called The Educated Elite in the Nigerian Society by E.B. Ayondele. There's a mistake the author is making. is the mistake that the generation before us, the educated elites before us, made. And some of them are still making it right now. The aversion for the uniqueness or the differences that each group in Nigeria possesses. And the reduction of the love or celebration of those uniqueness to tribalism is one of the reasons Nigeria cannot make progress. Everybody should be proud of who they are. It doesn't stop them from being Nigerian. It's not this or that. These are not mutually exclusive concepts. I said earlier, being Yoruba and being Nigerian is like being a son and being a father. Do you have to kill your mother because you want to give birth to your son? Are you saying that it's wrong to have your mother see your son, or you being able to perform those two roles? Does that in any way stop you from being a human being? You are the son to your mom, you take care of her. You are the father to your son, you take care of him. You have different relationships. Why do people think that everything has to be... Is it difficult to compartmentalize? Why must all of us be grouped together into one thing and say, we are one Nigeria in Kiniko? It's a lie. You know. How do I know? Because my fathers did it. They were the nationalists. There's no group in Nigeria that did nationalism like Yoruba people. It's not even about Achebe nonsense. Achebe is talking without facts. Me, I'll tell you the facts. And we'll go deeper into it when we're discussing the evolution of Christianity in Yoruba land. The first nationalists in Yoruba land were Yoruba Christians. All of them. The idea was about Nigeria. They were Yoruba. They were comfortable being Yoruba, but they were thinking of Nigeria. They got to the point where they even started talking about Africa. Not in the Pan-African sense of we are all the same, but in the sense that, the African man should rise. They had this goal for the African man. Not that one group should lead the continent of Africa, or like the Igbos should, according to Nnamdi Azikiwe. Or that the Igbos are superior to other people, according to Chinua Achebe. The Aryan race, younger brothers of Hitler. They did that until certain people got into politics in 1937. Everything had to change in reaction to the introduction of tribalism into politics in 1938. Z got in 37, he introduced tribalism in 38. He went berserk in 1940. By 1941, he just scattered everywhere. And you have the audacity to go around the country calling people tribalists. Listen, be proud of your ethnicity. Hate no man. I mean, we have goodwill towards everybody, love for all, respect for everybody. But you cannot misbehave in people's places and say that you are one Nigeria. And this mindset that Achebe was shouting about, we are better than everybody, we are the Kiniko, Irola, Bambe. You are more civilized is a lie. If you are more civilized, we can't be wearing clothes in 1963. There was an edict by the parliament in Enugu that people cannot come to Enugu market, that's the capital city, without wearing clothes. 1963. You are telling everybody in Nigeria that you are more civilized than them. How now? Meanwhile, can we not have conversations without saying, I am Kinikon than you? I am Kinikon than you. Because what you discover is that the person who is always comparing is hiding the real issue, which is inferiority complex. He has nothing. He's low. No matter how much money he has in his pocket, his brains are empty. Empty of virtues. Empty of wisdom. He's always comparing. I'm better than you. In other words, your glory is in comparison. You can't be good on your own. You must compare. Which is why everything, including basic things, become competition. I must have more than you. You must have more than me. Even when you're supposed to collaborate, you still must compete. I don't compete with Lolo here. You still scatter everything. That's why where we are right now. I'm not saying only one ethnic group should be blamed for Nigeria's woes. Everybody has something they contributed. But I'm saying that people should own what they contributed. For instance, as a Yoruba man, what did we contribute? What we contributed was allowing our own place to be the turf for different groups that want to fight. Why? Because we ourselves were divided. So one will go with the north, the other one will go to with the east. Your land is where they will fight. When they finish fighting, they scatter everywhere. You're not able to say, this is what we want to do as a people. You have small issue, and then you let your ego overtake everything to the point where you must be right. Sometimes you have to be wrong. Not because you are wrong. Not every time. I'm not saying you will now become a doormat, but sometimes you just choose to. That's what our own issue was, especially between Papa and Akintola, which is the next series we're going into on Monday. These were best of friends. These were people who were so close. When Akintola's daughter was going to the UK, Mama saw her off to the airport. Mama HID. Gave her money, I think it was £50. These were people who the wives will wear Ashwebi and co. What happened between them? That's what we're going to go into next week. How did we allow that personal issue to degenerate to the point where it now affected the entire people? And I can assure you, it's also what was affecting the entire Nigeria. What happened? We allowed it to happen. And I'll tell you why, how it's affecting Nigeria. If we had just stayed where we were and kept growing, everybody would have had to copy from us like they were copying from us in the 1950s. We were doing something, everybody saw it, they were copying it. When it worked, it worked. When it didn't work, they failed. But we were there. They started fighting. They had no other persons. You know you can lead without being at the top. John Maxwell calls it 360-degree leadership, where regardless of where you are on the rungs of the ladder, you are leading. That's where we messed up. And we can own it so that we don't repeat it. Where you messed up is that you are Toju Bole Eronuru. You're always going to people's houses to tell them what to do, and you're trying to destroy everybody's house just to ensure that you are established. That's where you are, and that's why you're still messing up, looking for indigent status in 2025. Because you learned nothing from the past. You go to this place, you're a tribalist. I must be your guy. If I don't become your guy, you're a tribalist. You did it in the north, in the west, in the midwest, in the south, everywhere. Say what's happening now, we are one Nigeria.